Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devon. Let's get into the episode.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Wheel With It. And today, I can't even tell you all about the episode we have today. It is going to be amazing, heavy, but amazing. Please welcome Kyle Hebert, and I'm going to let him tell you his story. So, Kyle, tell us about yourself. Take it away.
Absolutely, Devon. Thank you for having me. This is truly a blessing, and all honor to our great God and Lord Jesus Christ. And truly, this story is all about His grace. Yes, my mess is His message, and just a little bit of where the mess began. I'm born and raised in Chalmette to two awesome parents. My mom, Maybelle, who was born in 1927, and my dad was born, Johnny, Cajun name Ignis, was born in 1925. They had me in 1965, so I'm a 40itis baby. They call that, and so I had the best of both worlds. My mom had me late in life, and I have a brother, well, who deceased, and we'll talk about that. He was born in 1955, so we were 10 years apart. Wasn't real close, but albeit I was born in a truly moral, not Christian family, one that gave me just about anything I wanted, and but mostly, I had everything I needed, but really gave me anything I wanted. And my dad was a electrical engineer, and he could fix anything. He had a little motto, Devon, that he would say, "Oh, I can fix anything from a broken heart to the break of day." And this man literally could. Mother, a school teacher, and of course, my brother went on to be a truck driver after going to machinist school, and he even went to school to be a radiologist for X-ray technician. So I come from a really great moral family. My dad always listened to my mom, and in 1970, in this one particular incident, my daddy was remodeling the kitchen to get the house ready. My mom wanted to redo it for the holidays when family would come over. She would have, the kitchen would be fresh, and I was very close with my dad. My brother was more of a mama's boy, but I was with my dad. Whenever my dad was working on a project, I was there with him. In 1970, of course, I was age 5, learning everything, my dad had going on. He was remodeling the kitchen, putting in new countertops, using a adhesive called Formica glue. Now, if anybody on here knows anything about Formica glue, there's two types. One, it's very flammable, which is the good, strong one. Then there's the non-flammable. Well, it was getting late at night. My dad was finishing up the countertops, and he had turned the hot water heater off, the floor furnace. And right where he was working, what he did was he left the pilot light on the gas stove. And I was actually sitting behind him playing with a truck, but I'm watching what my dad's doing. And all I can remember, Devon, was a flash. And it went off like a time bomb, but it knocked me to the ground. And my reflexes, I immediately ran out the house to the front porch. But what had happened, the glue ignited with the pilot light on the gas stove, and that air fume mixture caused intercombustion that blew basically the kitchen apart with me and my dad in it. But I got thrown on the floor, and I ran out to the front. But when I got to the front, I realized that my dad wasn't with me. And thank God my mom was outside. I had a little Chihuahua muncher that was sick. She was in the garage, and she was giving him some medicine to try to make him well. And this particular night, my brother was sleeping at one of his friends' homes. So it was just me and my dad inside the house. So naturally, wanting to be with my dad, I ran back inside. But Devon, as I'm running back inside, the house is on fire. My dad grabs the can of glue, which is inflamed, and he just throws it. Had no idea where I was at. He's reflexing. By this time, I'm running in. The glue hits the ceiling, and lands on me. Well, I'm covered in glue, on fire now. I'm running around the house. I can remember going lay between the refrigerator and the deep freezer. I just went and laid down. And my mom by this time heard screaming, which wasn't unnatural because me and my dad played all the time. But when she smelled smoke, she knew this was serious. So she looked around the outside door to the back of the house, and the whole back of the house was in flames. So immediately she stopped what she was doing. She ran to the back door, grabbed some of the wrought iron lawn furniture from off the back deck and beat the door down. My dad had been coming out. And later on, I would find out my dad told her, go find Kyle, he's in there. And my mom immediately, the love of a mother, ran into the flames, into the house. And my dad went outside, rolled in the grass, put himself out, grabbed a hose, came back inside, put the flames out. My mother found me in between the refrigerator and the deep freezer. And she literally, after numerous blankets caught fire and she couldn't suffocate the flames completely, my mother used her body to extinguish the flames on me. This was a horrific ordeal. Whereas after we got finished with my dad putting the house out, my mom put me out, we went out on the front porch, and I can remember smelling my burned skin and burned hair. And I looked around as a little boy. I mean, I'm in shock, but they brought me immediately to Hotel Dieu Hospital in New Orleans, whereas that at the time was the only hospital in Louisiana that had a burn unit. So I would wind up having to have a total of 46 major operations, and there was points where
Dang.
yes,
How was that for a 5-year-old?
Oh my goodness. Horrific. Great question, Devon. It made me angry. I can remember blaming the doctors. And again, I wasn't raised in a Christian home, so I didn't understand, God. I didn't, but the little knowledge I did have, in my own 5-year-old mind, I blamed him. I got real vulgar with the nurses. I was really an angry young child that, I had to go through physical therapy. My dad spent about eight months in the hospital. My mother was an outpatient. So my mom would, house back together. And of course, she had to get back to work. And then she was visiting us. And then my aunt and her sisters and different family members. And even my school teacher from CF Raleigh School, she even was coming there and making sure I was, as a kindergartner, just kind of keeping up, with my studies and everything. And they had to peel the skin off, and I had to have skin taken off my legs. And then I was in a wheelchair, and then they pronounced me dead several times. And I caught pneumonia. It was just a horrific ordeal and then the drugs. They were using morphine to, try to numb the pain and everything. So a lot of factors were working in this young boy that really didn't understand anything. And my family, they just wanted the best for me and to get me back on my feet. And so, that went on for, almost, 2 years. I was like a year and 8 months, year and 10 months, something, almost maybe right at 2 years. And then once I got out the hospital, we got a whole nother ordeal to deal with. I got to get back to school. So, but because burn victims, they can't be around germs. So I had to sit in a classroom by myself. So I just came out of all of this skin grafts and being angry and now put in the room. Now I got a bunch of kids gawking at me. And kids can be awful, looking and calling me names and everything. So I can remember, Devon, the first time I was able to come out that lone room and the physical therapy really helped me. I come up out the wheelchair, regain my strength back, so that was a process.
How
But I
was
can remember,
physical therapy? Because I go through
yeah,
physical therapy and
yeah,
I'm not even a burn victim and it's painful. I can't even
yeah.
imagine if your skin no.
Mhm.
Like
Right, right. Well said. It's work. I mean, it's work, and you wanna do the best. And me being 5 years old and angry, I'm just tired of people touching me. I'm tired of, I'm tired, and actually
I
I've
get
never
tired at 27. I can't even
bless your
imagine.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. And you really you get a really front row grasp at what I'm saying here, and that's precious. And so I did not act accordingly, Devin, to the children who was gawking at me and making fun of me. And I would get so angry. I can remember I would smell blood, and I unleashed one day on a particular kid who had called me a bad name. Um, I don't remember what it was, but I snapped and I whooped him pretty good. It was the first time I had really put my hands on another human being, and I beat this kid up pretty good. The other kids
Did he
was
bother
like,
you again after that? I mean, not that you
no,
should do that, but did he bother you
no,
again?
right? No, ma'am. He did no, absolutely no. But there was others that tried me and I beat them down. And so I sort of got a rep for being a good fighter now. And so, pride's welling up, and that's a bad mixture. Anger, pride, and now there's consequences to that. And remember, my mom's a school teacher, so she knows everybody in the system. She's over at Chalmette High School, but she knows the teachers at my elementary school, and they of course give her a call and say, Kyle's fighting every day, and we're gonna have to discipline him. So my mom and dad decided to have this real long talk with me, like, you can't do this, this is not the right thing to do, we didn't
Yeah.
raise you this way. So their remedy for this was sports. Now, again, I wasn't raised in a Christian home, so I just understood basic morals, right, wrong, at a very natural level, not spiritual. And so
Me too.
my family,
I had great parents,
mhm,
but they're not necessary. I mean, they're great people, but they're not
absolutely
necessary Christians either.
right.
So, yeah.
Same, yes, well said. Same boat here, and love them. And they did the best that they could. Is and listen, I'm grateful for them, Devin. I was really I had some wonderful parents, and we'll
I
talk a
hit the
little bit.
lotto with the parents. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yes. So they decided to welcome me, open up the possibilities if I wanted to play sports. And I did. I did. I enjoyed sports. I had a little speed and I had some ability and a lot of toughness. And the doctor, my skin grab, Dr. Robert Mead, said, let it turn him loose. Turn him loose. He's gonna be fine. And so in eighth in excuse me, in sixth grade, I began playing football for Chalmette Middle, the middle school, and began excelling. And I started on defense. I played some cornerback, and I wasn't real big, but I was fast and some safety. But the coach recognized that not only did I have speed, I had catching ability, and I was pretty smart. I mean, I had some, even though the heat, from the fire, the doctors thought that I would have cognitive problems. I didn't. They really thought I was going to stay in a wheelchair. I came out of the wheelchair. And by no means did I recognize who was really doing all this behind the scenes. I gave myself the credit. So they moved me to offense, and that's really where I began to be recognized. I started, making some waves, some positive waves out there, on the football field, and running the ball, getting some good yardage. And my team started winning. We got some key players on the team. And what really happened, Devon, was that my grades began to get better because you got to keep a certain grade point average. And then I stopped fighting because you can't be, if I want to play football, I got to stay out the front office. So really the decision my mom and dad made was bigger than what they thought. So I wound up going to Chalmette High, exactly where my mom's working at. And that's a pretty um big football school. You see the Friday night lights, on TV, or that story of that. Well, I was an owl. Being a Chalmette owl's a big thing because they played 11 quad A, 4A's, but they're the only public school in the Catholic School League. That's a big thing. We play against like Rummel, Jesuit, Brother Martin, St. Aug, Holy Cross, all these big Catholic schools. And I wound up making the varsity as a freshman. I didn't start, but my opportunity came where I could get in and play, and coach began putting me on punt teams and whatnot. And I'm gonna tell you, Devon, my grades, I was making the grade. I was taking all the classes that I needed. I started looking at the goal. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get into forestry. And I'm looking around at some of the colleges here, and I'm playing football and breaking some rushing records and some touchdown records. I had really a wonderful run through Chalmette High School, and all the way to 1983, where my senior year comes, and I'm not fighting anymore. I'm living a real moral, studious life, but I'm doing it all for myself, and I'm making my parents happy, and football teams looking good, my peers. I got a lot of friends and everything, and I'm living a really good moral life. Well, in 1983, the last game of the season, we playing it was St. Aug, and we had an opportunity to play them in the Superdome. And I'll never forget, all through my practices and football games, I never will ever forget the times. My dad never missed a practice, Devin. My dad became the heart and soul of my life. And my dad was my best friend. He was my mentor. He would always he poured his life into me. He taught me various vocational skills, and he was at every practice. My friends loved my dad. My friends loved my mom. My mom was great people, worked at the school, but my dad was a very special human being, and he really, lived an amazing moral life and raising his two sons. I played football, my brother played in the band, and then my brother would go on to machinist school and x-ray technician school, and then ultimately he drive a truck. But my dad supported him in all of that and poured his life into me. But every time a football game or a practice, I could look in the stands, my dad was there, and it was an amazing. I never realized how important that was, and how great of a mentor this man became to me. Not a Christian, but a good moral mentor, pouring his life into his son. And the last game of the season, Devon, against St. Aug, for the first time we beat St. Aug, and it was in the Superdome. And I'll never forget my dad's, he was so happy. And that was the night that we began really talking about my future and going to college. And I had actually received a scholarship from UL, a little smaller college here in Louisiana. I wasn't big enough to play for LSU. I could have went to Southeastern or one of these smaller colleges, but I chose UL, and even went and visited on campus, and because I wanted forestry. Forestry is a wonderful program here in Louisiana, and UL has one of the best. So, all of that's in place, and we beat St. Aug, and that's kind of like the icing on the cake for my high school football career. I'm fixing to move on to the next chapter, and we go home that night, and we all celebrate and everything, and me and my brother, we go to sleep. My brother and I had rooms across from one another. Devin, I never heard, if my parents argued, I didn't know about it. They was very discreet about that. I'm sure they did,
Same thing as me. Like, I only remember them arguing one time when I was
yeah.
19. Like, and that, like, if they did, I never heard about it.
my goodness. Yes. Oh my goodness. They got along, they worked together, they both had full-time jobs. They raised these two boys. And they owned a washateria and a grocery store. And that was when my dad was going to retire and work. He was going to run his grocery store. But Devin, this particular night right after the football game, I'm heading to UL, fixing to graduate. I had a 4.0 grade point average. I was keeping straight A's. I really had turned the corner, and wanted to do right. And for the first time, I heard my mom yelling. I mean, yelling. It was like, woke me up. Man, I come running out of my room. My brother's already out in the hallway. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know. And we run to the back there. My daddy had closed in, me and my dad, we closed in a 2-car garage and made their bedroom. It was gorgeous, Devin. They had their own room in the back of the house, bathroom and walk-in closet. I mean, it was sharp. And so we ran to the back of the house. My mama's coming forward. Daddy's dead, hollering, Daddy's dead. I didn't even click yet. Daddy's dead. Man, sure enough, I went in the room and I witnessed my dad. I mean, already pale. He wound up having a heart attack in his sleep, died in his sleep.
I'm
And
so sorry to hear that. Ugh.
it was hard. Thank you. You know, that was the turning point. My life just flashed before my eyes, and here's my hero dead. And all that anger that I had when I was in the hospital as a little boy came back 10 times more. And I wound up leaving home. I'm really hating this guy that I don't know. I didn't know, blamed him, even blamed my mom, blamed my brother, blamed everybody, blamed myself. And here I am, a 17-year-old, I would finish school. I did, just because I didn't want to. I walked, I graduated, I had lost my 4.0, but I did have enough GPA. I think I wanted with a 3.6, and I
Which
graduated with
is
the ropes.
like still like
Yeah.
amazing. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hurt, a lot of pain, didn't know how to handle the pain. Not a Christian, I didn't run to the right place. But what I did run to, Devin, is here where it gets really ugly. I saw drinking, drugging. The athletes that I used to hang with who had plans and, wanted to go to college and, have a life and build families. I threw all that away. I didn't want anything to do with that. I just wanted to get loaded, wanted to fight. And I'm getting involved with a couple of biker gangs, and that was not good. I mean, and they, really they enhanced my drinking and my drugging and sexual immorality. And I used up a lot of females, and I'm so sorry, because I'm gonna tell you, every time I have an opportunity, I apologize to women for the way that I treated y'all, because y'all was created to be valued and honored and respected, and I did none of that, during this downward spiral and debauchery and hellbound and fighting and hurting people. And that was crazy. Here I am, born and raised in Chalmette, and I got a lot of friends from New Orleans. I got a lot of Black friends, but I'm gonna tell you, I got a lot of Mexican and Cuban, friends, but I'm gonna tell you, they didn't turn their back on me. They knew it was amazing. That's a whole nother story. Yeah, we really didn't get to that point. This is a wonderful time for me to, really, my mess is now his message, but this would work. But however, my mess
it is a
I'm
part
no
of your
longer
story.
this really shows the power of God in changing. And I got, I jumped too far ahead, but where I work today and all of this shows the power of God, but the beauty of it is that when I do begin to speak, it's like, whoa, it's grace. And I've been there. And this is the mess right here that we're getting into. So from age 17, this is crazy, Devin, to 34. I'm doing a life sentence on the installment plan. I accumulate. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about criminal justice reform, as you know. So
Yes.
I think I have a dark sense of humor. I laughed when you said that on Lisa's podcast. Okay,
Yes.
keep going.
Yes. I accumulated 97 arrests, and 4 felony convictions. And look, I'm in and out, people, and I'm blind. A natural man does not receive the things of the spirit, for to him it is foolishness. And I'm sure there were people that was really trying to get my attention. But, God is the one that gives the increase. He uses people to share his message. I wasn't mean to the Christian. I wasn't mean to the evangelist. And I wasn't mean to someone trying to share grace with me. I just didn't want anything to do with it. I had my own agenda. I wasn't, I was dead in my trespasses. I was blind. And, I was still blaming everybody. So I'm in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And this one particular incarceration in 1990, the early part of 99, I meet a girl while incarcerated, and we both get out, and I wound up bringing her home, and we move in with my mom and my aunt, and both of us have a very serious alcohol drug problem. I've done acid, crack, meth, PCP,
So you've done everything.
everything except put a needle in my arm. And I'm sure, Devon, I would have liked it, but it would have killed me. There's no doubt. God was
Yeah,
saving me for
you
something
would
bigger.
have you would have died, I think.
I would have died. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I'd have been in hell. So I just, by his grace, I didn't put a needle in my arm. And look, I'm not afraid of needles. I'm being a burn victim. I had a lot of needles. Matter of fact, on they did so many of the skin grafts that I was sharing with you that I had to begin doing skin grafts localized, which meant that I had to be awake for some of them. So
Ooh.
yeah, I had and watch. I got to watch and witness Dr. Robert Mead taking skin off my legs and flapping it and cutting it and then putting it on my body.
I have a pretty strong stomach for medical stuff, but that sounds
Oh my
gross.
goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so I got to so needles, it was truly the grace of God protecting me in my foolishness. So me and Susan, and that's her name, we drinking and we're living with my mom and my aunt, and it's just not going well. But my mom loved me so much, as well as my aunt. They wanted me close to home, so they agreed, let me and Susan stay there. And Susan would help, with them and everything. But one particular night, Susan and I got in a very, very bad argument, and it involved my aunt getting in the mix of it, and I wound up beating up Susan and my aunt, and that was the charge. I got attempt first degree murder for beating up my aunt.
So
And
now so you didn't intend to kill her, is that correct?
no,
Okay.
no.
But they bumped it up anyways because of your
Yes.
previous okay.
Yeah, that and her age. My aunt was 72 years old.
Okay.
There's a clause in Louisiana. Yeah, and I was not raised to beat women up, but that became a part of my life. Every girlfriend that I had, I put my hands on, and they would stay with. I was a very abusive, derelict, foolish, ungodly, and no man is to put their hands on a woman. I was not right. I never ever, like I said, I never saw my dad, and I even, I wound up conceiving, well, one of my girlfriends before Susan. I don't want to sidestep this because this is a very important piece here, is that I have a daughter, Kaylin, who's now 30 years old today, that I was never a part of her life. And she's taken the brunt of my downward spiral, my adulterous, my demonic, my drug addicting, my self-centered life. And this precious young lady has went through it all, and today still doesn't speak with me, and I get it. Yeah, do I desire reconciliation with my daughter? Yes. Do I deserve it? No. But Kaylin, she decides, even today, she still does not speak with me. But that's, she was born, in the 90s, and I trampled her love, and I was not a father to her. So, and then I'm in and out of prison, and I don't blame any of that. And here I get with Susan, bring her home, and then I beat my aunt up. And my aunt, the police aren't called, Devon. The police were never called for this charge. We had went like 2 weeks living as a normal family, me drinking and drugging. And one afternoon, I'm going back to school. I'm working for the local 11 sheet metal union. Remember, I told you my dad raised me on my tools.
Sorry about that. My the phone is going off. So
I can't even hear it.
okay.
No, it's perfect.
Some of these mics are finicky, so I don't know what you can hear and what you can't. So
No, it's perfect. No, that I didn't even hear that. But
anyway,
thank you for telling me.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so the police didn't come, when I committed this self-centered abusive act on my aunt and Susan. We went on living, like nothing happened. Me and Susan continually drinking. I'm going to school for the local 11 sheet metal union, and I'm finishing up that. I want to further my education with underwater welding. So I was going to night class like 3 days a week. And on this particular night, I'm coming back home from school, pulling in the driveway, and I see police cars all over the place. And I'm like, here, in my self-centered mindset, I'm like, somebody's in trouble. I don't even think about me. 2 weeks ago, I just beat up my 72-year-old aunt and this poor young lady, Susan, which she had taken many beatings from me at the hands of this devil. And I pull in the driveway, and all I heard was guns. I mean, it was serious.
I mean, I know you work for the police now. I
Yeah.
mean, I love the police. I support
Me
the
too.
police. My dad worked with a lot of police for his job
Yeah.
because he was in loss prevention. So he was a security officer for department stores, basically. So he worked with a lot of police. So I'm not saying they did anything wrong. And I love them. But when I heard this on Lisa's podcast, I was surprised because from what I've seen, and I don't know anything really about policing or protocol or whatever, but they usually wait to see if you become violent before they even think about doing that. Were you surprised?
Yes and no, and that is a great observation. That is beautiful. I live in Chalmette. We all know each other. It's a small town. I was the football hero. They knew I had gone wild. They knew that I was drinking and drugging. But the very police that arrested me was the very ones I went to school with, played football with. I'm telling you, my friends went on to be successful in the world's eyes. And they would always try to help me. They gave me chances. I mean, chance after chance. There was times I would get loaded and I would call the police department, and I'd tell them, send your best. And we would just have these free-for-all fights. And they would send the police over to fight me. And, they would get, strict orders from the sheriff not to kill me, but just to bring me in. And they would use that as training, to arrest me. So they knew, that number one, as mean and foolish and stupid and demonic as I wasn't one that carried weapons. I just didn't, Devon. I mean, I've never been into guns, and thank
No,
God.
I mean, I don't have any problem with people responsibly owning guns, but I've
me
never been
either.
into
No, me either.
I've
No.
never been into guns either.
Right.
So
No, I am, yeah, even, but I'm a felon, I'm a 5-time felon because, of course, the attempt first degree murder charge on my aunt. But no, I am truly pro-gun, pro-life, all of that. I love the Lord. But it's been an amazing journey to get me there. And so the arrest was another changing point in my life. When the handcuffs went on me and I was placed in the back seat of the police car, a peace came over me, like a wild animal who had been trapped, caught, and it was like not being trapped, but I was at peace, Devin, and I couldn't understand exactly what was going on. And I can remember looking out the back window of the police car and I saw the house, and I said, I'm never coming back here. But I was okay with that. But I asked the police if I could see my mom and my aunt, and they told me no. And so I would never ever get, from that day forward, I've never seen my parents again, or my aunt, of course, or Susan. They're my mom and my aunt has passed away since then, and I had no idea where Susan went. But when they brought me in to the police station to, give me my rights and, and get all my paperwork and what I was charged with, and the cell door shut, it actually went off like a church bell. Something began to work in my heart immediately. Now, I didn't understand any of this, but what was happening was God had been opening up my heart and my eyes, and I no longer wanted to blame. Now, I hadn't even opened up a Bible yet, but I was broken is what it was. Man, something happened when I beat my aunt up. It was like, I had beat a lot of people up, but when I beat this woman up, I was broken, and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of getting loaded. And when they put me, I come out, after you come out the holding cell, they put me in the back. And
back of the jail.
The jail.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Great word. Yes. They put me on the tier. And so while I'm back there, I'm detoxing, and now I'm recognizing there's guys around me that are wanting to pray with me and, talk to me. And, I wasn't to the prayer, but, it was a slow process. Guys were bringing me the Bible, and they begin to, minister to me, and we begin talking through some things. And then, I begin to kind of, pray, by myself, and as best as I knew how. And I'm saying I decided, but there's no doubt that it was the hand of the Lord. I decided to take full responsibility for everything. So when I went to, I went through the arraignment, and then I went to my first court hearing, which was like 4 months down the road. I asked Judge Galbany if I could, just go ahead. Let's get rid of it. Let's get over with this. I don't want my aunt and my mom to have to be dragged through this. I'm fully guilty. I take full responsibility. Susan, she did not deserve any of this. I said, surely my mother didn't deserve any of this. My aunt didn't, she took the brunt of it. And my mama had to watch me, she saw me beating her sister up, and that was horrific for her. And all I wanted to do was be responsible. I had here I went from blaming everyone to, being self-centered to now thinking of others, and didn't understand all that, but I wanted to do the right thing, Devin. So Judge Galbany said, look, I'm not making no deals. I don't want a deal. I told him, I said, I just want to do the right thing. So I pled guilty to 40 years at age 34. So from 17 to 34, running crazy. And then at 34, I began to wake up.
Dang, that must have felt. How did that feel, knowing you were going to spend 40 years?
I was free. I was free. Didn't understand all of it. And I didn't realize how free I would get, because this next piece of the story, it validates everything I've been through, good, the bad, and the ugly, of this great sovereign God, and placing me and preparing me to walk into, which would be the next chapter, the land of new beginnings of my life. And, once I pled guilty, I accepted the 40 years peacefully, respectfully, and fully, responsibly. they would send me to Hunt. Hunt is the administrative unit of the Department of Corrections here in Louisiana, where they will send the convicted inmate and distribute them based on cognitive skills, vocational skills, mental health, age, charge, into the various prisons in the system. There's several. Angola being a lifers camp. That's where they send LIFE. I had 40 years, 34 years old. I could have stayed at Hunt, DCI, WCI. I wouldn't have went to Wade. Wade is more of a disciplinary cell block camp. But when the guard came by after 8 days of going through all these tests and everything, he tells me, Mr. Hebert, you're going to the Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola. And I was like, wow. And for the first time, the gentleman next to me, who hadn't said a word to me the whole time, Devon, I heard him say, hey, man, you're going to the best place that anyone could ever go to do time. Now, I hadn't heard about Angola, you know.
Now,
I'm
has
sure
he been to Angola before? Is that how he knew that?
probably, I'd have, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. And so that is one. I'd have to say probably yes, or knew someone. Now, I knew guys that had went to Angola, but we didn't talk about it in that respect. It was the bloodiest. You could go up there and get whatever you wanted. Live a life. It's a lifers camp. It was anything but the land of new beginnings. Guards getting killed by inmates, and inmates killing and raping each other, and it was all of that. But again, now we talking about the overall picture of my story, God's sovereignty, this great holy God working all things together for his good through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And now I got this 40-year sentence, and I'm heading to the Louisiana State Penitentiary. That is a lifers camp, where they got people who are going there to die, and nobody's ever leaving there. But I got a out date of 2034, which is not impossible to make, but it is a long sentence that I took happily, respectfully, peacefully, responsibly. But next day, load up in the van, in the bus. We head down Highway 61, and man, we pull up at the front gate, and it was, on the way up there was a peace. There was no, woe is me, why did I take these 40 years? Nothing. That has never crossed my mind. And I heard the guys that was in the bus with me, what they were talking about, but I'm in my own small understanding of prayer at this time, and my little bit of knowledge of, what I've gleaned the Bible while I was, on the tier in St. Bernard. I knew this much, that there was something bigger than me, in control of me, and controlling situations, and making a way, and giving me a peace that was beyond my understanding. And when I pulled up at the front gate, no doubt, the hand of God pushed my head to look through the bars on the bus, and I could see in the distance, Devon, a sign. And what it was
Now,
a big old,
this is crazy. This is the
yeah,
craziest thing I've ever heard. Tell us what the sign said.
the land of new beginnings. Talk about an oxymoron for this place. The land of new beginnings. And I'm like, really? But oh my goodness, Devon.
So how long had that sign been there? Like, had they just put it up or something?
That is a great question. In 19, I would have to believe, this is 2000 now. I'm in 2000. I got arrested August 19th of 1999. 8 months. I'm in Angola. 2000 now. Early 2000. Warden Burrow Kane, who everybody, he's one of the most famous wardens that has ever worked at Angola, because he's the one that God really used to turn the place around, and just a real simple, no nonsense man that treated us with the utmost respect and ran his prison, you know, with the motto, "There's one bull in the pasture." But he coined the phrase moral rehabilitation. He believed that prison was for predators and monsters and not dying men. And that's his motto. I believe in 1994 that sign went up. That's to answer your question, because that's when Warden Kane got there. 94, 95, he brought in the Bible College to New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. And then in 2000, brings in this Cuban named Manny Mill, who was a prisoner that was locked up with Chuck Colson. Chuck Colson is Nixon's in for Watergate. And, Chuck Colson is the one that created prison ministry, the big worldwide ministry that still, goes and helps inmates. And I didn't know any of this. So here's the land of new beginnings. And let me tell you, it would become, no question, above the land of new beginnings for Kyle Hebert, because immediately, I'm telling you, immediately when I landed in Angola, remember, I was working for the local 11 sheet metal union, building ductwork, and I was going back to school for underwater welding. And my dad, who was an engineer, had trained me, in various trades, electrical, air condition. I could build anything and fix any, I got as good. And my uncle owned Hebert Alignment. I had a real good, I had 5 ASC certifications, so I love to work on motors and build cars. And, only thing I couldn't do is paint, but I could do basic body work. I had a cousin that painted, but I was real handy. God had been using all of that. And here I landed into the land of new beginnings. And Warden Kane is building his first chapel. He had a vision. He wanted to put a chapel in every camp. Angola's 18,000 acres, and they have all these different camps. Got Camp C, Camp D, Camp J, Camp F, main prison, East Yard, West Yard. It's a city.
Yeah,
So,
it's and I have to say that my mom was very nervous today when I told her I was interviewing somebody that had done 22 years at Angola.
right.
And is there any thing that we should know about Angola that we wouldn't necessarily know?
Absolutely. At one time, everything I said is, it's true. It was the bloodiest prison. It was the worst prison, and people were dying. People were getting raped every day. And then, here comes Warden Kane, and the feds had to come in. They had to, take over, but God had been there working. And God works through people, and he worked through Warden Kane, and it still is the bloodiest prison. The difference is it's covered by the blood of Jesus, not the blood of humans.
Well said.
Yes, and I was privileged to be a part of that, and it became a little bit of heaven on earth for Kyle Hebert. But when Devon, that first day that I landed there, the individual, God is sovereign, that was putting in the ductwork in Warden Kane, his first project of this chapel at Camp D, gets a stroke. So they need someone to come in. Inmates do all the work. The trustees, they do everything from building to plumbing to roads to taking care of the cattle, to maintenance and everything. And so the inmates are building this chapel. And so Warden Vinoy and Warden Kane are looking for someone to be able to replace the individual that was doing the air conditioned duct work. And here I come in as a brand new, fresh AU right off the press that has all this vocational skills, particularly come out the local 11 sheet metal unit, and doesn't have a life sentence. And I'm 34 years old. So Warden Vinoy calls me to the A building, which is where, we meet at, and asked me, would I be interested in, asked me a few questions about my experience, and then says, would you be interested in helping us with the chapel? be an opportunity for you to have a job and not go in the field. Because every inmate that comes off the bus, you got to go pick vegetables. Because Angola's a farm. We do all the picking of the crops. We do
Yeah,
all the
I
grass
didn't know
cutting.
that. So I heard you
Mhm.
say it on a.
Not only did I not do a day in the field, I went to work that next day at Camp D. They gave me a ride, and I was working with nothing but trustees. And in my area was a gentleman by the name of Ronald Edison, who happened, God is sovereign, be a pastor who had fallen, had lived in Slidell, and was real
Which is
proficient in the word.
crazy, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. In the chat, he's the janitor, cleaning up my area. I asked for a coffee pot. I wanted some community coffee. My boss made a way for that.
I love the fact that they were like, "What do you need?" You're like, "I need coffee."
Yeah, coffee, and they do that. They will. Angola is they allow a lifer to live a life, and some of the perks for the trustees. You can have a coffee pot. You can drink coffee, and the bosses, they'll take care of that. I mean, it's a small, it's just a respect thing. There's a lot of respect um for the inmates and for the especially the trustees, and it's really it's healthy, and Warden Kane wanted that. So Ronald Edison wants to drink coffee with me, but it was truly the hand of God that Ronald wants to do more than that. He wants to begin praying with me and opening up the Bible with me. And, this man here began pouring his life, doing breaks. We putting in the duct work, and, I got all the tools that I needed. I got a brake, and I got, the various things I needed to build the ducts. And, I was able to read the blueprints and get everything going smooth. And then during our spare time, Ronald would teach me the Bible, and then he would even begin, bringing me to church and to a Bible study called Experiencing God by Henry Blackaby. That would later on become the prerequisite for me to go to the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. Had no idea. And then Warden Vinoy would come, and he would give me my Class A trustee status, which meant now record setting, usually takes 10 years to get a trustee status. In 2 weeks, I had my full Class A trustee status. He took a chance on me. And after we finished the chapel, before I left, I made this comment to God, and I said, you got me building your house. The next thing you're gonna have is me preaching in it. So be careful what
My
comments you
God,
make to God.
that's crazy though. Oh,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. So we would finish the chapel, and it went really well. And I was getting a biblical education and understanding relationship. And for the first time, Ephesians chapter 2 jumps off the page. The God of this world loved me, and it was at that point. There's no doubt that the Lord removed the heart of stone, replaced it with a heart of flesh. And it was right there with Ronald Edison in that chapel that we was building. And Miss Lisa said it like this. She says, Kyle, look at this. The Lord redeemed you with a broken pastor in a chapel at the lowest point of your life, in a prison that the world would see as the worst place. And yeah, it is. But however, God used all of that to break you and to redeem you, to save you right there. And then my life would never be the same, because that was the springboard, that I would learn later. That was the whole time God had, he was there in the fire. He was there when I was running touchdowns. He was there in the fight, and he was there when I was running touchdowns. He was there when my dad died. He was there when I was drugging. He was there when I was, drinking and drugging and fighting. He was there when I beat up my aunt. He was there in St. Bernard Parish. He was there in that bus ride. He was there when I went through those front gates. He was there now in this chapel, And now I would be able to get a regular job in maintenance, and that job would allow me to be the maintenance man at the seminary in the main prison. So now
So
I'm the
what,
maintenance man.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
We need a crazy counter on this podcast because I said crazy like 3 times.
Yes, this is
Um,
truly all God in my mess, you know. And then here's the big piece. I get a letter in the mail, and I had hurt my family, and rightly so. They had walked away from me. They were tired of me, and I deserved that. And we're forgiven of our sin, but there's consequences. And one of the main consequences, of course, Kaylin, my daughter, doesn't speak to me today. My family, most of them don't either. But I have done that. I am not the drugs, not the alcohol, I'm the problem. And that's why Jesus died for me and to redeem me from all of that. But there's consequences to my sin. So I get a letter in the mail, and I'm not writing anybody. I'm not getting any money in. I'm working and I'm studying the word, and it's just me and God. And this letter, I open it, and me and Ronald Edison standing there, and a picture falls out and hits the ground. Well, Ronald picks it up and he's looking at it, and I'm looking at the letter, and I see Melissa. I don't remember a Melissa, Devon. It's really terrible that I don't. I mean, that's how drug induced and how much of a monster I am, and that I was, of course. And it's only by His grace that I'm not a monster today. But I don't remember Melissa. It does not ring a bell. But Ronald says, "Hey man, you got to look at this picture." So it's a beautiful baby boy, and I turn it on the back, and on the back it says, "Hello, Daddy." 2.5 week old, 3 week old Matthew. I had a son in August when I got arrested in August. So in March, April, I go to spring break. Now remember, I told you I had a girlfriend, Susan, that I was living with, but yet I go to spring break and fool around on her. And I meet a girl while at spring break. Her name's Melissa. I don't remember her name. And we have a one-night stand. And Matthew is conceived, and I leave. And I come back to Louisiana, and I get arrested on this charge. Very rightly so. Melissa, who is separated from her husband, is fooling around on him with me, one-night stand, goes back home, gets back with her husband, and pregnant with my baby. Now, in a world of abortion and, that wants to kill the baby, let's eliminate the problem. They decide to keep the baby, but not only keep the baby, allow me to be a part of the baby's life. And they're not Christian.
which is crazy.
Another crazy. Yes. So that God is sovereign. You remember, God's the one in control here. He's the one who turns the heart of the king whichever way, like rivers of water. Man's plans are thwarted, but God's plans will always come to fruition. It's amazing. Yeah. So I get the letter, and remember, my dad and me were close. And so let me tell you, everything began to flood back with me and my dad. And, I began to, well, how am I gonna raise this kid? But then peace came over me, Devon. And everything I had been learning in the word and everything I had been studying, I knew that this was just the perfect time for me to be the prophet, priest, and king, all the offices that Jesus Christ fulfilled. It was time for me to be a good earthly steward and point my son to his real father, Jesus Christ, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and to me to raise him in the word. And so I did. So through letters, and the Lord made a way that He put people in my life, that would help me with that and financially assist me with phone calls. And then He sent a church called Riverside Baptist Church, it is the church I'm on staff with today. with Larry Hubbard, and him and his team would come to Angola, and we would do Tuesday night Bible studies. So while I'm doing that, I get accepted into the Bible college, and there goes my seminary run now, and I get my bachelor's degree in Christian ministry, and then I continue, and I wound up getting my Master of Divinity through the seminary, and going to this Bible study and getting connected with people out here on the street, and of course Manny Mill, the Cuban, who brings in Awana, which I know you're from, that's a ministry that allows us to it's by Art Roham. They rate it's for children, and they memorize scripture, they do all kind of little Bible studies and everything. But Manny Mill talks to Warden Kane and says, well, what about the children of the inmates? And Warden Kane said, I think, man, we need to do something, because we don't want no more victims. If we raise children in the admonition of the Lord, that's one less victim, because it really is about victims. People have been hurt. I've got victims. I've caused a lot of victims. And let me tell you, the Lord has made a way over the years that I've been able to reconcile with a lot of my victims. Not all of them, but he's made a way. He's restored, man, massively what the cankerworm has destroyed. And he is the great reconciler and giving me the ministry of reconciliation. So Manny's like, man, we need to bring Awana. Let's bring Awana in, and we're going to have a program called Returning Hearts, which is based on Malachi 4:6. Turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, the hearts of the children to the Father. And so we spent an all-day event. You can pull this up on Google. We have Returning Hearts, and that was the first time the churches all came together, and they went to Florida, picked my son up, and I got to spend a day for the first time when Matthew was 9 years old, and I got to hear him call me daddy, and I got to apologize to my son for the first time, and just flat-footed tell him that I love him. And so we got to do that, and I was able to spend that whole day with my son. So that gets done. I'm in Bible college, and then I get my Master of Divinity. I'm raising my son, and then Warden Kane opens up the door for those who graduate from Bible college.
Now, how did you meet Lisa and all this? Sorry.
That is a miracle too. I meet Miss Natalie Laborde, who is number 2 in Department of Corrections. Miss Natalie was originally on staff with Hillsong Church, and she wound up leaving that. And she came, she's born and raised here in Louisiana, and they hire her with Prison Enterprise. Well, when the governors changed, she got moved from Prison Enterprise to Department of Corrections, second in charge with Secretary LeBlanc. Well, Miss Natalie loves Jesus, so she brings in. But the blessing was, I got to meet Miss Natalie, and I had no idea that who Miss Natalie was, and so we connected. And every time, and then me and her brother became really great friends while I was incarcerated, Thomas, and that relationship, of course, it was on a very professional level, but as a sister in Christ, not only me, but she looked out for all the men and the women, at the women's prison. That's how I met Miss Lisa, because every time Miss Natalie would bring a guest, she would, come get me, and I would speak like I'm doing with you and share my story, because, you got to realize, not only was I a Bible college graduate, I worked on the newspapers, the magazine, the Angelite, the famous prison magazine. I was on staff for 12 years. So I wrote for the Angelite, and then I was a mentor. I went missionary. That's another thing. Warden Kane would send those of us who graduated from the Bible college out to other prisons to be missionaries. So I did that. So, and then I also got to work on the cattle operation. So I learned the cattle operation, but everywhere I worked, bivocational or whatnot, it was a ministry. I also got to go on the street. in Mayflower. I used to travel speaking at all kind of churches, as well as every now and then, Warden Kane then would allow me to go back on my tools. I had a lot to offer, with tools. I could fix anything. So they were remodeling the old deaf school in Baton Rouge and turning it into the prison enterprise new headquarters, where Miss Natalie's office and Secretary LeBlanc, where their office was. So I would get dropped off on Mayflower Street, and I worked all day, and they would pick us up and bring us back to the prison. So here I am with a 40-year sentence, being able to leave the prison, and go work at, in a public place, on my with tools, with a tool bag on me, and but look, handing out tracts, look, praying, and look, we could see the governor's building through one of the windows on the second floor, and we pray. We had legislation. Little did I know. I mean, that's how. Remember, I said, when was my out date? 2034. I'm sitting here on Zoom with you in 2023. So legislation's going on. And so, just, God working all this together. And then, me and my brother, my brother had turned against me, and very rightly so. But a miracle happened with that. Something real crazy. You're about to say crazy. One of the men decided that they, Kyle, you've got 13 years in. This is 2013. They said, let's go ahead and put a motion together and maybe try to get maybe a reconsider, maybe get some of your time cut. And I'm like, I'm not worried about a time cut. I'm guilty. They said, look, man, just let's give it a shot. Stop being so prideful. They knew how to get to me too. Because really, okay, I really do want to get home to my son. I deserve to do the whole 40 years. I never had a problem with that. Devon, I never had a bad day in prison. Prison truly became a little bit of heaven on earth. I love pouring my life into other people. And you read about, my next little piece of this talk is evident of that, of what I do today, so nothing's changed. I just get to come home, so I said, okay. So they put a motion together, and St. Bernard accepts it. So in 2015, I get to go back to St. Bernard and try to get a time cut. And my brother's there. Well, little did I know, my brother.
Your brother is in the jail.
He's in the courtroom. In the courtroom. He's in the courtroom. Yeah. In the courtroom, he shows up to go against my release. He don't want me home. But I'm trying to figure out why. Well, what happened was that I didn't know about was that here in Louisiana, there's no forced heirship, meaning if you don't have a will, you can lose your property. So everything I owned, my brother was able to forge his signature to become attorney. Use my mother's hand. Nobody knew this. I found out all this later because he admitted to me, and I'm about to get to that. So he didn't want me out to fight that. He sold everything. I mean,
oh my God. Okay, crazy. That's
yeah.
crazy number 3.
Yeah, we got a couple more crazies. So, but I had a choice here. Forgive or fight him through the court system. My heart is always bent about sharing this gospel, an opportunity to sit down and love on someone. Jesus forgave me. Look at everything I've done. I don't deserve any of that. I'm not entitled to any of that. Man, God became a man and died for me because of love. So how much more should I? My God owns everything. I'm just a good steward of everything he's given me. So my heartbeat was to forgive my brother, because had I fought him through the legal system, Devon, I would have never had an opportunity to share the gospel with him.
And that takes like 30 years. Like that's not quite 30 years, but that's so much.
I'm not coming home anyway. I'm in prison. I would have hoped that he would have given the stuff to the kids. he's got kids. So, and I got my son, and I got my daughter, Kaylin, so, but I forgive him. So at the court, he done went to the DA, don't let Kyle out. He gonna kill me. Okay, so the judge denies, after granting me to come in there for a hearing, denies the time cut. And so when we're done, I thank my attorney, hug her. I'm a trustee, so I don't have the black boxes like that. I can kind of hug people. I turn around, Devin, my brother's sitting right behind me. I didn't even know he's behind me. But it gets better than that.
I should have a button that says crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it gets better. There's the church people who's there for me on my side, but there's a conversation I found out between Pastor Robbie and my brother before I get there in court.
Pastor Robbie meaning
is
Zacharias.
No. Pastor Robbie is another pastor. I had Pastor Larry,
okay,
who is the pastor at Riverside Baptist Church, where I live today, and I'm on staff, where I help out. And then there's Pastor Robbie, who ministered to me, who's from Slidell, who is one of the churches that helped get my son from Florida to Angola to visit with me. But he brought his congregation to my hearing to support me. Well, I didn't realize that Pastor Robbie and my brother went to Chalmette High School together. They were friends. So when they pull up, Robbie sees my brother and says, "Hey, John, how you doing?"
Oh my God.
He's not even connecting that's my brother. They don't, yeah, it's crazy. God is sovereign, talking about working all things out. So, man, how you doing, John? I hadn't seen you in years, man. What's up? You got a ticket or something? He's asking my brother. My brother said, "No, I'm in here to keep my brother Kyle Hebert in prison." Pastor Robbie says, "That's crazy. I'm here to get him out." And then Robbie tells him, "John, it sounds like you got some unforgiveness in your heart." Robbie begins ministering to my brother and sharing everything. My brother had no idea in those 15 years what the Lord had been doing in my life. And my brother, his heart was prepared that when I turned around after being denied, crying, I hugged my brother. And I was able to whisper in his ear, "I love you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. I'm not worried about, I just want you in my life." And it was from that day, Devin, that I began writing my brother, calling my brother, being a part of my brother's life, reading scriptures with him, and involving him in the life of my mentees, because I would teach Celebrate Recovery, Experiencing God, Victim Awareness, Malachi Dads, all these programs that I went through. I was now giving it back to the men in Angola, and we would write letters to my brother. I always would let these men know what I was doing in my life to encourage them. So the Lord had reconciled me and my brother back. So I wanted them to be a part of that, because of them had brothers and sisters and mamas and dad and children that they wasn't talking with. Again, I don't have Kaylin, but I'm believing the Lord's going to work all that out or not. I mean, that's strictly up to him. But I love my daughter. I'll never stop praying for my daughter. I will never stop being there. Matthew loves his sister, but that's a whole nother story. And I got two granddaughters. I got a granddaughter, Mackenzie, and I got a grandson, Monty. And then I've got a bonus son, Troy, her husband. None of them are in my life. But I'm believing the Lord will put them back in my life one day. That's strictly up to him. But me and my brother reconciled, and for 2 years, I was closer with my brother through letters, phone calls, and I never got to visit with him, but I was able to love on my brother. I was closer with him than I ever was in person. So, 2017, I get a tap on the shoulder from Warden Easley and says, "Go see the chaplain. Now, I know, Devon, what that means. Being an inmate minister for all those years, normally, when you have to go see a chaplain, it's a death message. So I run upstairs, and sure enough, Chaplain St. Cyr hands me the telephone. It's my niece, my brother's oldest daughter, Jamie. She says, Uncle Kyle. I said, oh my God, how you doing, Jamie? I hadn't spoken to Jamie. Now, Jamie's in my life today. We text almost every day, at least once a week. Her and I are texting. I got my niece in my life. Jamie says, I'm so sorry, Uncle Kyle, but my daddy's dead. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, and how did you know to call me here? I hadn't been in touch with Jamie. Here's another crazy coming. She says, I went by his house to check on him. He lived by himself because her mom and my brother had divorced. And she said, when he didn't answer the door, I used the key to go in. And when I went upstairs, I found him laying on the ground, dead, not breathing. But I saw your letters on his bed. And I saw that you had been in communication with my daddy. So I called Angola. That's how I knew where you was at. There's the crazy. Now it's really fixing to get crazy.
I'm
So
gonna stop this episode.
God is sovereign. So Devon, I immediately asked Chaplain St. Cyr to call Warden Fontenot, who is one of my very close wardens. I was close with many wardens because I worked for so many of them. Warden Fontenot was over the Anglite when Cheryl Renata moved on to be the pardon board chairwoman. My original boss became over the pardon parole board. We're going somewhere. Just be cool. My boss is running it. Now look. God is sovereign. So look, she says, I'm already on it, Kyle. Warden Fontenot had already arranged for me to be at the funeral the next day. So they drive me all the way back to St. Bernard. That's a nice run from Angola, about a 2.5-hour drive. Trustee, I'm in street clothes. And look, all I got, I got my Bible. This is the Bible right here. In the back of the police car. We're going to St. Bernard to my brother's funeral. There's cars everywhere when we pull in. So the guards tell me, Kyle, just go ahead and walk in. We'll meet you in there. I'm a statewide trustee. I walk around without guards. I don't need someone. I mean, I'm real. I done worked, on Mayflower Street, highly trusted. But my family doesn't know that. Not everyone. There's a couple that have heard, but here I come walking in the front door of the parlor where my brother's, where the funeral's being held in St. Bernard. They see me walk in. They like, oh my God, did he escape? How did he get here? And I got a Bible in my hand. Look, last time they saw me, I had a 40-ounce beer, My family's like, what in the world? So I pop up. Well, let me tell you, that whole day, I was able to apologize to my whole family. Some received it, some didn't, but I was able to reconcile and reconnect with like my cousin Ellis, who is in my life now, and I got to see my cousin Andre. I don't really talk to them that much. I love them. I love my family. Even if they don't love me, I love my family, But here's the crazy. My brother on paper was a professing Catholic, okay? But if you don't attend church, the priest won't come do your funeral. Devon, nobody was there to do my brother's funeral. So who do you think does my brother's funeral? I did my brother's funeral, and my whole family's there like, oh my God. And so I was able to share the scriptures. And while there, my nephew stands up and says, I love Jesus. I want to renounce my sins right now and ask for forgiveness. So in the preaching of the word, where there was death, life came. And my nephew, John, let me tell you something, who theoretically a mini me, he's been through his drug addiction. Matter of fact, he's done a little prison time and everything, but he received Jesus that day as his Lord and Savior, and through the preaching of the gospel while I was there. So miracle after miracle, crazy after crazy, and
I
we
swear
got
we need a crazy button. I'm not even gonna say. I'm just gonna push it right now.
and here's the no, I think we got two more crazies. Miss Natalie, the one that brought Lisa Harper, and we got to hang out. I got to meet her, and she brought Ravi Zachariah, but that's not that's how she got there. And this is way before he got in trouble. But Miss Natalie, they're litigating to try, and Warden Kane and Secretary LeBlanc, who is all about rehabilitation and preparing men where there's no more victims. They work out and parole project is another thing, where it's a transition house and a group of men that come out of prison. They're all litigating this Act 122. Now, remember, my out date is 2034, but they litigate this Act 122 that in August of 2021, it becomes a law, and it allows me, who has a 40-year sentence, non-sexual, if it's a sex offender, it doesn't fit them. But for violent crimes, if you have 30 or more years, set numbers, you're allowed you must serve 20 years and be at least age 45 to have a parole eligibility. Don't mean you'll make it, because your prison jacket, your body of work, your disciplinary and all that must be where they want it in order to be a low risk to be released. Well, remember, I got 98 arrests, 5 felony convictions, but I went from that to being 0 disciplinary infractions, Master of Divinity, teaching, traveling. Something happened, and we know that it was because of Jesus removing the heart of stone, replacing it with a heart of flesh, giving me a new spirit, new desires. I begin to hate the things I used to love, and I now love the things I used to hate, namely God and people, and then studying his word and giving it away. So the people saw that, and so I get a new rap sheet with a parole eligibility date on it under Act 122. I couldn't believe what I was looking at when they handed it to me. So in December of 2021, I went on, Miss Natalie made a way that I would get to go on the first board. And not only did I make the board, they kicked me out of Angola on the 17th. I wound up coming out here to Denham Springs, where I'm now part of the church that used to come in Angola. I'm on staff. I was able to transition through Parole Project. My former editor of the Angolite, Kerry Myers, and dear friend of mine, Andrew Huntley, who was the first juvenile after serving 20 some odd years, was able to come out of prison. Kerry Myers, who had done 30 some odd years in Angola, he got out on the pardon board, where Cheryl Renatza was our boss for the Angolite. She's now the chairwoman. She got to witness all of this. And Kerry did 31 years as an innocent man and is now out here giving back. So I got to go through the Parole Project, and then the Lord blessed me with church members from Riverside. They blessed me with a home. They blessed me with a car. And then Sheriff Ard, who is the sheriff of Livingston Parish, he and Warden Ben Ballard and Mark Carroll, who is the lead chaplain, came and spoke with me and asked me to come aboard as the reentry chaplain. So today, I now work, can you see that, for the sheriff's department here in Livingston Parish, doing the same thing I was doing in Angola. The only difference is I get to leave the jail every day. So that's two more crazies.
That must be nice.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I spend 6 hours at a time with the guys. So yeah, I was able to do my brother's funeral. Then I was able to make parole. Then I went through parole project, and then I live out here in Denham Springs in a wonderful old couple's mom's house that used to be, Dave Tate's mom. And I'm blessed here. And they got cattle. They got cattle here, so I get to see the cattle. And I go to the jail 3 days a week. I get to go to the church, and I'm able, when needed, teach and preach, and got a wonderful community around me that has loved on me and welcomed me. And I get to share what the Lord's doing. It's like I got to share what the Lord has done in my life here with you this morning, Devon. And my son is now a senior at Wheaton College. He's at, Manning Mill brought in Wheaton College. And I made a lot of the Lord open up doors. It's all about connections. And, we depend on God, but we have interdependency on each other, the body of Christ. And he'll make a way. He's no respecter of person. What he's done for me, he'll do for anybody. My mess is his message. He gave me new desires. I'm sorry for all the ones that I have hurt and harmed, and I can't change that. I wish I could. But he's used every bad decision for his glory. And I sit here today, a man who, number one, thinks of others' interests more important than himself. And I'm grateful. And the Lord's blessed me. I've been home now for 20 months. And I have been celibate for 24 years. I'm, 22 and some change, and then the 20 months out here, I'm truly living for the Lord, waiting for the Lord to send me my Eve, and if that's even in His will, I love, it's about purity and honoring women and valuing women and honoring God and not being, idolatry. And these are things that I not only preach and teach, I live. And am I perfect? No, but I serve a perfect God. I stand positionally perfect because of the finished work of Christ. And yes, I'm practically raggedy, but I'm a son, and I do go through chastising, and thank God I do, because that is the litmus test that proves that I'm a son. He said, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. Well, how did he overcome it? He rose from the dead. We serve the only God that there's no bones in the tomb. And that same God that rose Jesus from the dead is the same God that resides in me. And I'm grateful. So let me drop the mic. All glory to Jesus. Devon, you are precious. Love you and thank you for this. You need to get my phone number so we can text one another, and I can start sending you scripture.
yeah. I almost hesitate to ask you this, but is there anything you would like to add before we get off here?
You've been so precious. You've let me, I told the whole story. I don't think I left anything out. I'm grateful for Riverside Baptist. I'm grateful for all the Southern Baptist churches down here, all the Reformed Baptist churches, here in Livingston and throughout Louisiana. They've opened up their doors and allowed, man, there's so many, that they've opened their doors and allowed me to tell my story. Just like I got you, this morning, to tell my story and just glorify God. It's not about Kyle. This is not about Kyle Hebert. It really isn't. This is all about Jesus and his saving grace. And if he saved a wretch like me, he'll save anybody. Be of good cheer. Look, you're in good hands. Paul said that he was the worst of sinners. He and I are going to have a talk when we get to heaven. I think, no doubt, I'm the worst. Yeah, so, but anyway, I'm not, it's not a game. It's all about Jesus. And I'm humbled. He broke me inside the confines of my consequences, and he made a way inside of the land of new beginning. And he equipped me. He had been equipping me all the way, even in the fire, equipping me. I had an amazing, the Lord blessed me with an amazing cell block ministry where I could go to TU. That's where you got a lot of mental health. I would go to the disciplinary areas in Angola, Camp J. I would go to death row. which is Life Row. We had programs there. But a lot of the guys who were part of the, in the various, gangs and whatnot would accept me, but they would see Jesus in me. They knew my consistent morality, because it's truly, you can't fake it in prison because you got eyes on you all day long. And let me tell you, if you fake this, they don't want nothing to do with you. But if you're real about your faith, which it's not even about me, it's about the Lord guiding me and dying daily and allowing him to work in and through me, there was a consistency and still is. Now that I'm home, I'm done deal. It's all about Jesus. I go back into prison and look, experiencing God, I'm teaching on Monday. On Wednesday, I do Celebrate Recovery. And then on Fridays, I'm doing Victim Impact and Malachi Dads. The same programs I was doing in Angola, I'm doing in Livingston Parish Detention Center. And it's a legit DOC CTRP 90-day good time class. They get 90 days for taking my class. And it's not even about the good time. It's truly about no more victims. It's teaching these men to operate in the role of prophet, priest, and king of their household, just like I did with my son. So I was able to bring home all the DVDs and everything because being an Angolite, I could film everything I was doing. So now I just bring it to the prison and put it in a DVD player, and they get to see everything I was doing in Angola.
Which is, God,
Crazy.
like,
yeah.
How, literally, I do not know how we're going to top this episode. I have to go because I have an appointment at 2, so I need to make sure I can get ready. But thank you so much. We have to
Devin,
do a part
God bless
2.
you. I'm honored.
My
I'm gonna send you my telephone number on your email.
Okay, I might
Contact me.
I might just keep the email going for a while, but
Yeah. I just wanted that way. I mean, if you want to call, you can call. And I send text messages out ministering to people. I want you to have that. You can call me anytime. That's what I'm saying. Family.
Okay, I will keep that in mind. But thank you. I literally do not know how we're gonna top this. I hope I win some kind of award for this. No, I'm joking. But I
just let God get the glory.
I don't know. I literally don't know how we're gonna top this, but we will try next week. See you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
God bless you, Devin. Thank you. Praying for you.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to follow the show and our guests on social media and subscribe.